You stand beside a modern construction site and hear the roar of machines. A crane turns slowly above the street. Trucks carry concrete and steel. Engines shake the ground. Workers use laser levels, power tools, computers, and machines that can lift tons with the movement of a hand. Now imagine taking all of that away. No crane, no truck, no engine, no steel cable, no electricity, no modern surveying equipment, no factory-made machines. What remains is sand, stone, rope, wood, water, sunlight, and human hands. And with those simple things, ancient humans built one of the most famous monuments on Earth, the Great Pyramid of Khufu, rising from the Giza Plateau in Old Kingdom Egypt about 4,500 years ago. So the question is not just how they built it. The question is how ancient humans built the Great Pyramid without modern machines. For a long time, many people looked at the pyramid and felt that it seemed impossible. Some imagined aliens. Some imagined a lost technology. Others imagined thousands of slaves dragging stones under whips with no plan except suffering. But the truth is more interesting than all of that. The Great Pyramid was not built by magic. It was not built by helpless people. And it was not the work of one secret trick. It was built by a society that understood stone, water, labor, timing, measurement, food, and belief. The answer was not one miracle. It was many simple systems working together. Imagine the Giza Plateau before sunrise. The desert is still cold. The sky is pale. Workers gather in the half-light. Ropes are checked. Wooden sledges wait beside blocks of limestone. Somewhere in the distance, the Nile reflects the first light of morning. This was not chaos. It was organization. Most of the pyramid was built from limestone, much of it quarried near Giza itself. Workers did not need to move every stone across the entire country. They cut many blocks close to the construction site. That alone tells us something important. Ancient engineering began with location. The builders chose a place where stone, space, river access, and sacred meaning came together. Quarrying stone was brutal work. Men struck the rock again and again. Copper chisels helped cut softer limestone. Stone hammers and dolerite pounders were used to break and shape harder material. The sound would have been constant stone against stone, metal against limestone, voices rising over dust and heat. Copper was not steel. It bent, it dulled. It had to be repaired and sharpened again and again. But ancient builders did not need modern power tools to shape every block perfectly. Many inner blocks were rougher. The most careful work was reserved for visible surfaces, passages, chambers, and outer casing stones. And this changes everything. The pyramid was not a pile of identical machine-cut blocks. It was a massive planned structure built with different grades of stone, different purposes, and different levels of precision. If you enjoy videos like this, remember to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. The shining outer casing stones, many believed to have come from Thura limestone across the Nile, were much finer. These white stones would have reflected sunlight and made the pyramid glow in the desert. Granite, used in important internal spaces, came from far away in Aswan. That meant the project was not only a construction site, it was a transportation network. The Nile was the ancient engine. Without trucks, the Egyptians used water. Heavy stones could be moved by boat during the right seasons, especially when the Nile flooded and canals or harbors brought materials closer to the plateau. The Wadi al-Jarf papyri, including the Diary of Merer, give us a rare glimpse into this world of organized transport, showing teams moving limestone by boat for royal construction. The evidence comes from something unexpected, not a legend, but paperwork. A working official recorded movement, supplies, teams, and stone transport. It does not explain every mystery of the pyramid, but it shows something powerful. The builders were not guessing, they were managing. Now imagine boats moving slowly along the Nile. The river shines under the sun. Men guide stone cargo toward the construction zone. Ropes creak. Water slaps against wooden hulls. On land, teams wait to unload the blocks and drag them toward the rising monument. Moving stone across land was another problem. One likely method involved wooden sledges. A stone block could be placed on a sledge, tied with ropes, and pulled by teams of workers. This sounds impossible until you remember one small but brilliant detail: friction can be reduced. Researchers suggest that wet sand may have made dragging heavy sledges easier. When sand is slightly damp, it becomes firmer. The sledge does not sink as deeply. The load moves more smoothly. It is a simple idea, but simple does not mean primitive. A small amount of water placed at the right time could save enormous effort. That is ancient engineering, not engines, not electricity. Observation. But moving stones was only half the story. A pyramid is not just stones on the ground. It rises, layer after layer. It climbs into the sky. So how did ancient builders lift blocks higher and higher? This is where scholars still debate the details. Many believe ramps were used, but the exact type of ramp remains uncertain. There may have been straight ramps, zigzag ramps, spiral ramps, internal ramps, or different systems used at different stages of construction. A single method may not explain the entire project, and that uncertainty matters. We should not pretend we know every detail, but we do know some kind of controlled elevation system was needed. Workers had to raise stones gradually, not magically. Ramps made of mud brick, limestone chips, clay, and rubble could have allowed teams to drag blocks upward level by level. Imagine the pyramid halfway built. The sun is high. The air is white with limestone dust. A team pulls in rhythm. Someone calls the beat. Ropes stretch tight. The wooden sledge groans. Men push from behind. Others pour water or adjust the path. Above them, the pyramid is no longer a foundation. It is becoming a mountain made by human will. This was exhausting, dangerous, repetitive. People were injured. The heat was merciless. The hierarchy of ancient Egypt was real. No one should romanticize the human cost. But the old idea that the pyramid was simply built by slaves is too simple. Archaeological evidence points to organized labor teams, skilled workers, and a workers' village near Giza. These people needed housing, medical care, tools, records, and food. Bread, beer, onions, fish. A monument of stone also required a river of supplies. Every worker pulling a rope had to eat. Every tool had to be replaced. Every team had to be directed. Every day had to fit into a larger plan. The Great Pyramid was not only an architectural achievement, it was a logistical achievement. This is the part we forget. Modern people look at the pyramid and ask, how did they lift the stones? But the deeper question is, how did they organize the people? Because no single person could build the Great Pyramid. No genius alone could drag the stones, cut the blocks, feed the workers, align the sides, manage the boats, and plan the years ahead. The pyramid required cooperation on a scale that still feels difficult to understand. And then there is precision. The Great Pyramid was aligned closely with the cardinal directions. Without compasses or laser levels, ancient surveyors likely used shadows, sighting rods, ropes, water levels, and observations of the stars. They watched the sky carefully. They studied the movement of light. They turned nature into measurement. At night, the desert became an instrument. Stars moved above the plateau. Surveyors could use repeated observation to establish direction. During the day, shadows could help mark lines. Ropes could measure distance. Water could help find level. Again, the tools were simple. The thinking was not. This is where the modern world begins to look strange. We often confuse technology with intelligence. Because we have machines, we imagine that people without machines must have been less capable. But machines are not the beginning of intelligence. They are one expression of it. Ancient humans had fewer tools, so they had to understand their tools more deeply. They had to know when the Nile would rise, how stone would break, how sand behaved when wet, how many people were needed to move a load, how much food a workforce required, how to repeat a task thousands of times without losing the larger shape. They gained results through patience. We gained speed. They had rhythm, repetition, memory, and a society organized around one impossible goal. The Great Pyramid was not just a tomb. It was a national act of belief. To the people who built it, stone was not only material. It was meaning. The pyramid connected king, gods, land, sky, and eternity. Their belief gave direction to their labor. Their labor gave shape to their belief. That is why the pyramid still feels powerful. Not because it proves aliens visited Earth. Not because it hides one magical lost machine. But because it shows what human beings can do when imagination becomes organization. A thought became a plan. A plan became labor. Labor became stone. And stone became eternity. So how did ancient humans build the Great Pyramid without modern machines? Not with one miracle. Not with one lost secret. But with limestone, copper, dolerite, rope, wood, sledges, water, boats, ramps, food, measurement, discipline, and years of coordinated human effort. The next time you see a crane lifting steel into the sky, remember the silence of the Giza plateau? Remember the workers in the dawn light? Remember the ropes pulled tight, the stones sliding over wet sand, the boats moving along the Nile, the stars above the desert, and the pyramid rising slowly from the earth? Long before engines lifted our cities into the sky, human beings had already learned how to lift their imagination into eternity.